welcome to the first ever episode of Dub's Domain. I'm Eli, and I am joined by my friend and fellow Warriors superfan, Nate. Welcome, Nate.
Thanks, Eli. I'm so excited to be here, bro.
Awesome. I'm super excited too. In this first episode, we will go over the first half of the season. We'll be responding to the successes and lamenting the failures as we go over what went right and what went wrong. We'll also dive into some league-wide topics, including top contenders and MVPs of the first half. Finally, we'll make some bold predictions for the second half of the season.
All right, well, I think to get us going, I want to just say that I think the first half of the NBA season, with the way it was going to start, it started late, obviously, but I think they've done a really great job handling, and I think my basic thoughts would be we really got some successes. I know we had tons of COVID outbreaks, so many teams, so many games canceled, but I think when it's all said and done, the fact that we've gone through a first half, we had a successful All-Star game. I think it's gone really well, and I'm really excited to see how it keeps going. I'm not sure what's going to happen second half. I'm not sure if they're going to go to a bubble, but I really enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Definitely better than, I think it went better than the MLB season last year and the NFL season so far. Like you said, we've had some outbreaks. Luckily, the Warriors have been mostly able to escape that. I don't even think anybody has missed a game because of COVID. I know there was a risk with Curry, but he ended up not having it. So, yeah, it's been great. It's been super successful. And I hope there's nothing that will happen going into the second half of the season. But so far, great job. Props to the NBA for getting us a season. Last year we weren't even able to. So, yeah, lots of improvements.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a question. What do you think of the Sixers? I think this is kind of just jumping around here, but the Sixers, man, they are surprising me. I know, they're the top of the East, obviously. They're not quite where like the Jazz and the Clippers are, but are you surprised by them? Like, I just want to know what your thoughts are.
The Sixers have been a team for the last couple of years where we've been like on the fence. Are they good enough to be the top of the league? Are they good enough to succeed in the playoffs? And this year they finally hit it. I know last year they had a super talented team. A lot of people predicted them to be up there at the top, but they just didn't pan out. And this year, it's been a completely different story. They've been able to get it together. Obviously, Joel Embiid has been a monster, absolutely dominating the league, which we can talk about later. But just overall, the Sixers have been super impressive. They made some great moves in the offseason, getting Seth Curry, Steph's brother, obviously, and Danny Green. That honestly panned out better than I could have imagined.
Yeah, Danny Brick's been playing well. It's not really fair to call him Danny Brick anymore, to be fair, but
yeah,
he's been playing well, and obviously Seth's been an amazing pickup. He was really hot. He got a little cooled off after coming back from COVID. He was out for like 14 days, but overall, I agree. I think the Sixers are moving in a great direction, and especially with Simmons. He hit a three. He hit a three at the end of the game, a couple games ago.
Yeah, he did. So I saw that.
That'll make him go crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I'm gonna stay with the East. I think the Nets have shown what they can do, and they've been playing without. They've had four or something games with all three of their stars. They are, and James Harden is playing the best basketball of his career. I don't know if you agree with me there, but
yes, he's playing incredible. He's almost taken what his former teammate did with just getting triple doubles left and right. He's been crazy. And to pair that with Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and now Blake Griffin, there was a lot of questioners. I myself was a doubter. I was like, if I was the Nets, I don't know that I would pull off that trade. They traded a ton of picks to the Rockets. But it's been great. Harden has been a super big success. And now that Kevin Durant's coming back pretty soon here, and once they're all together, there might be some chemistry issues, but overall, I think it'll be a success especially now that they got picked up Blake Griffin. That is a interesting pickup. We'll see how good he ends up being. At the very least, he's going to be a steady hand from the 3-point line. So,
Yeah, I agree. And uh, James Harden to me is my MVP right now. I think lots of people are not talking about him.
wow.
I mean, I'm telling you, his numbers that he's putting up, some of the best efficiency of his career. His numbers are off the charts in every category. And he's even playing defense. Like, this is weird to say about James Harden. I mean, I don't think they're even close to the team they are without him. I think Katie and Kyrie would not be able to do this without them. And I think even, considering Katie's been out for so much time, I think if it was just Kyrie out there, they wouldn't be top 5. I think they'd be below top 5 in the East. And I think Harden's my MVP.
Wow. Yeah, I've not heard that often, but yeah, that is a good pick. I mean, just looking at his numbers, to give context, he's averaging 25.3 points, 11.1 assists, basically 8 rebounds, shooting 48% from the field, which is up 4% from pretty much every season in the past. I mean, he is putting up some great numbers, and definitely underrated to say the least. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I was a big doubter of the Nets beforehand. I didn't know how the chemistry was going to work. I didn't know how the team was going to work. And then once they traded away pretty much all of their depth, I was doubting even more. But he has been a big reason as to why doubters like me have been shut up, because, I mean, they've been great.
Yeah.
And the Nets have been great. Your MVP is hard and interesting. My MVP is definitely more mainstream, I guess, but mine has to be Jokic, man. I mean, Nikola Jokic has been an absolute unit. And it's very close between him and Joel Embiid. I mean, you could say Embiid because of the record and because of the crazy dominant performances. But I mean, Jokic, to be honest, if he won most improved, that wouldn't even be that far of a shot. I mean, his numbers are up like crazy, and he's just is such an impactful player, especially since Jamal Murray hadn't been performing as well as he did in the bubble. He'd been pretty all right. He's getting better now. And Michael Porter Jr. had been out for a long time. And overall, the Nuggets team just hadn't really been together. But through that, Jokic was dominant. I mean, he's insane. And I think for that reason, he is my MVP of the first half of the season. And I think he'll also win MVP at the end of the season, because now that Jamal Murray's starting to pick it up, Michael Porter's back and starting to look good again. I mean, I think that the Nuggets record will improve more than a lot of people are expecting, and he'll be the reason behind that.
I mean, I agree with that completely about the Nuggets. To give context for Jokic's stats, 27 points, career high, 11 rebounds. I'm not sure if that's career high. 8.6 assists, 56.7% from the field, and 42% from 3. Tack on 88% from the line as a center. And this guy's stats are ridiculous. I mean,
yeah, those are all career highs, by the way. Every single stat you just mentioned is a career high.
That's just incredible. I mean, you take a guy like Russell Westbrook. He averaged a triple-double a couple years ago on horrible efficiency. I mean, like, he shot so many times. Jokic is shooting the same amount of times, but on ridiculous efficiency. I mean, this guy is, a assist and a half shy of averaging a triple-double with this efficiency is ridiculous. And yeah, I think Harden is not getting, in my opinion, the respect he deserves this year. And for that reason, I do think Jokic has a higher chance of winning MVP than Harden. But I think it should be tight between them, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the season, if you have to choose the 3 it's between, I know it'll probably end up being Jokic, Embiid, and LeBron, but Harden definitely should be in that conversation. He should at least get a few votes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've even talked about Steph, but the MVP discussion right now is honestly blowing my mind. The fact that almost every single ladder has LeBron in the top two. It,
Yeah.
I'm not saying LeBron's not having a good season. We saw when Davis has been out, they have not been a championship team. Davis has been out, and they have struggled to stay above 500 since he's
Hmm.
been out, and that just shows how much Davis means to that team, and that shows that Davis is more valuable. I mean, even though LeBron's been playing great this season, I think Davis has shown his value just by the way he's been missed so much by them, and I don't know why so many people have LeBron at the top, and I just don't agree.
Yeah, and just Anthony Davis, or without Anthony Davis, the Lakers have a record of 7-6. So yeah, they are middle of the pack without Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean they're struggling, and we obviously as basketball fans we hope he comes back as soon as
Hmm.
possible.
Yep.
Um, so prayers up for Davis, but the Lakers and LeBron are. I think they're in trouble. I think the Jazz are proving what they can do. Um, the Clippers, I take the Clippers over the Lakers this year, even with Davis, which might be a bold
Wow.
prediction. But
Interesting. Yeah.
I think this is the second year the Clippers have been together. They've had 11 games without Kawhi, or 11 games without PG, and 8 games without Kawhi. And that's a lot of time missed for both those guys. And I think if they're healthy in the playoffs, I take them over the Lakers. I take them over the Suns, but the Suns are still incredible. I even take the Jazz or take the Clippers over the Jazz. If you're not catching on, I'm saying the Clippers. I think the Clippers come out of the West. We'll see.
Wow. Yeah. That would be a sigh of relief for Clippers fans, to say the least. Because I mean, this year honestly is all or nothing for them, because of Kawhi and Paul George. Last season, they obviously were the most people predicted them as the favorites. It was between them and the Lakers, and they lost, right? And Lakers ended up winning. And so this year is huge for them. Very important for. I think it's very important for Paul George. I mean, he's been playing great. So overall, Clippers having a solid season. Um, yeah.
Yeah, 24 and 14, they seat fourth in the West, which is not what you really expect them to be, in my opinion. I mean, I would expect them to be even higher. But like I said, they've missed so many games from their stars, and second half, I think they'll pick it up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, they have definitely. The Suns have outperformed. I mean, the Suns were going to be great, but Chris Paul, clearly that pickup was a lot better than I was expecting. At least I thought it was going to be a good pickup, enough to propel him to 5, 6 maybe, but to 3, that's that's awesome.
Yeah. CP3 deserves some MVP talks too. I don't think he should win it, but the fact that no one has even mentioned his name surprises me. I think it's the CP3 effect, man. Like they
Hmm.
had their bubble performance 8-0 in the bubble, so they were already hot going into the season. But yeah, 24 and 11, just 2.5 games behind first place Jazz. That's pretty incredible, and shows what CP3 can do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we should dive into uh, the Warriors. I mean, Warriors right now, we are ninth in the West. Sitting at a pretty decent record, not amazing, 19-18. We are on a 3-game losing streak right before the break, and one of those losses coming at the hands of the Suns. Yeah. So, what do you think about the Warriors' performance in the first half of the season? Is it outperforming, underperforming? What do you think?
That's a tough question. I had the Dubs coming in around a 7-8 seed. I think that's where I expected them to finish at the end of the season. So being at the 9 seed right now, obviously is technically underperforming. But at the same time, I think we have lost so many games just down to the wire. I mean, it's been a brutal season to watch, to be honest, just because of how many games have come so close down to the finish and we just couldn't pull them through. And I think if the Warriors can start finishing out and closing out those close games, we'll move up a lot. But to recap, the first half, I think Wiseman's shown signs. Wiggins, he's been cold, but he's shown what he can do as a third option or second slash third option. And Oubre is obviously getting hot. So I think there's definitely potential, but I might say I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little disappointed. Steph's been playing amazing, obviously. Draymond's kicked it up, but I'll say I'm a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, from where after the first two games of the season when we lost to the Nets by what felt like 3 million, and then losing to the Bucks again by what felt like 3 million, it was definitely it looked to be like we were in for another really bad season. But it's been, I mean, it's had our ups and downs. My main takeaway is that it's been so hard for us to gain any momentum, right? We'll get a win, we'll get 2 wins in a row, and then we'll come out and lose by two, and then all our momentum is lost. Like you were saying, there's so many nail biter games, so many games that are so close that we just can't quite close out. And I mean, to be fair, this team is there are a lot of pieces that are here for the first time. I mean, there are pieces that are missing. Marquise Chris, obviously, was in my opinion, a pretty large part of our team coming into the season, and then obviously he got out. And I think it's been hard to watch because there's the games where we lose by less than 10 or less than 5, and it's close to the final seconds, and we just can't close it out. And then there's the ones where we lose by 40, and we didn't have a chance from the beginning. Um, but overall, I think we're a little bit lower than I expected, and I think uh, or I think that is partly because of the fact that Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins just can't seem to perform well at the same time. It seems like Oubre, obviously, everyone in the universe knows that Oubre started off pretty terrible, quite frankly. He couldn't shoot. He got in Steph's way almost every possession. His defense was all right, all right. It's getting definitely has gotten a bit better. And Wiggins came out and looked like a defensive player of the year candidate. I mean, he came out and was playing stellar defense, was a great second option, and now it's almost flip flopped. Wiggins has fallen off a little bit, and Oubre has improved a little bit. So I think that's our main issue right now is that all our pieces can't seem to connect at the same time, right? We're still learning together and growing.
Yeah, and even more to your point that people can't connect. Aside from Wiggins and Oubre, like Draymond, his assist numbers went from like 6 assists to I think he's at 8.6 right now. The second, our two big men went out. Well, if Draymond can play like that this entire season, with our big men in the rotation, and I know that being without the big man, we played small ball. He was playing more minutes, and that got him more, touches and stuff. But I think if we can learn to click, like you were saying, and to your point, especially with Oubre and Wiggins, I mean, Oubre over 20 points per game in February was incredible. He shot really well from three, really well from the field. He's shown that he can be a second, third option, and we just need the consistency from both of them. Wiggins, like you said, was showing it so much. In the beginning of the season, he's been dropping down his points per game, dropping down his field goal percentage was the highest of his career. It's dropped down. His 3-point percentage is still good. It's still solid. I'll take it from, I believe, he's at 36, 37. But, just the way he's fallen off has been quite noticeable. And I'm just hoping they can learn to click together. And if we can get, all of our guys playing at a consistent level for the rest of this season, I think we will definitely move up in these standings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it when we click, and I mean, there are games where we've dominated because all of our pieces have come to play, and when our bench is playing well, that is when we're at our most dangerous. Which you can say that about a lot of teams, but it's especially noticeable for the Warriors when Damian Lee is shooting great from three, when Juan Toscano Anderson is playing stellar defense and just being that hustle guy, when Looney is getting the good rebound and sending hard screens and getting Curry open, right? When all our role players are doing the right things at the right time, and it shows.
Yeah. And I think it also shows in those comebacks we've had.
Mm.
The Lakers
Hmm.
comeback is the most noticeable or
Yeah.
notable. We also had the Clippers one, down
Hmm.
14. Lakers was down 19, and we were playing horrible at first, but you could see, right around the second half in both of those games, something clicked, with all of our
Yeah.
players, and they came out crazy in the second half, and we came back and got those games in. A lot of that credit obviously goes to Stephen Curry because he
Hmm.
just goes crazy. Especially in the
Yeah.
Lakers game, he was, to put it frankly, he was horrible in the first half, and then hit like
Yeah.
3 clutch shots at the end. And a lot of that obviously can just say Steph Curry being an MVP, but um,
Hmm.
it definitely shows that when we're clicking, we're a good team, and I think we can challenge. I think we can challenge a lot of teams if we have
Yeah.
that chemistry and people are just playing their roles like you were saying. Especially guys like Damian Lee, Eric Pascal. Those guys, when they step up, it's a really good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think any team is going to look at the Warriors and think, I want to play them in the first round. I think every team is going to be hoping and praying that when the playoffs roll around, they're not going to have to play us, because even if they might end up beating us, we're not going to be an easy team to beat. I mean, Steph is never going to be easy to beat.
They're not going to walk over us. I completely agree.
Yeah, for sure.
And we said that about last season too. When Clay was out, we said that about our team with D'Lo and Steph, but obviously the Steph injury. But
Mhm.
this year, I think that really is going to ring true. If we come in at the 8 seed, Utah better be scared. I'm not saying we're going to beat them. I think
Mhm.
there's a decent chance. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not predicting it, but any team that's in first or second or whatever it is going to be scared of us for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those seasons where I wouldn't be shocked if we end up 7, 8 seed. We make our way through uh, the pre-playoff tournament. I don't know what they're calling that, and we play the Jazz in the first round. Jazz in the first round, and we believe 2.0. You know what I mean? They're they aren't a crazy good veteran team, and it's not something that am going to necessarily predict, but it's also not something that I would be completely shocked at if it were to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. It just depends on how we get going. We have the schedule starting off. We have the Jazz, the Lakers, the Suns, and the Clippers in the first couple of games. So literally the four
Hmm.
best teams in the West. But
Yeah.
after that, there's a lot of teams, not great teams that we have not played yet. Notably, we haven't played the Thunder at all. We haven't played the Pelicans at all. We haven't played the Rockets at all. We still have
Mm.
games against the Kings. We have games against the Grizzlies. I
Right.
mean, these lower tier teams, the Wizards, you know, there's these teams that are low in the standings that if we win the games we're supposed to win, like we should beat those teams or at least the majority of those games and hang around with the other teams, we will move up and we will be scary in the playoffs.
Hmm. Right. Um, yeah, for sure. And some of those will be great games. And I can't remember the exact stat, but I do remember that the Warriors, we've been great against teams under 500. The games that we're supposed to win, we've won. It's the games against the top tier teams, the ones that we might not be quite ready for yet. Those are the games we struggle in. Which are the games we're supposed to struggle in? We're not supposed to be a top tier team. If we had Clay, I think that would be a completely different story. But unfortunately, that's obviously not a reality. So I think we're doing all right for where we're at. And I think that by the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up the sixth seed, like at the top. I think most likely I think the most likely spot for us will be 7 or 8, uh, including winning through the little pre-playoff tournament. Uh, but yeah.
Yeah. I think my hope is definitely a 6 seed. That would
Hmm.
obviously give us get us out of the play-in tournament.
Right.
But even in a play-in tournament, we have the Spurs will be there. I think the Mavericks will be there. And I think the Grizzlies will be there.
Hmm.
So that's my prediction for the top, the 4 play-in tournaments or the four
Right.
play-in teams if you include us. And in my opinion, the only team there that I would be concerned about beating is the Mavericks. I think,
Hmm.
the Grizzlies definitely depend on Jaren Jackson Jr. coming back.
Right. Yeah,
If he
for
comes
sure.
back and he's as good as he showed he can be, they'll be scary. But
Hmm.
if he doesn't, then I think the Grizzlies should be a team we should beat. And I think the same goes for the Spurs. Mavericks, they won 8 of their last 10 going into the All Star break. That's kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie, and I think they are definitely an up and coming team. I wouldn't be surprised if they even move up to 6 or even 5
Hmm.
and push the Trailblazers down. But we'll just see how that goes and what teams will end up playing in the tournament.
Yeah. We have a couple games fairly soon here against the Grizzlies. The Warriors do. So it'll be good to see in those games how we perform. Because if we perform well, then that bodes well for the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, the games we've got against these teams will definitely say a lot about what will happen. Just kind of want to change the subject a little bit here. I just want to talk about James Wiseman. Obviously,
Hmm.
the esteemed number 2 pick in this year's
Right.
draft. I watched him play his first 2 games against the Nets and the Bucks, and I was 100% sure of the year. Um, I
Right.
think we can both agree that I'll probably be LaMelo now, but
Hmm.
um, let's just talk about him. I mean, what do you think? What do you think he's shown? Do you think he's developing how he should be?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like you, I saw the first couple games and I was blown away. I, for one, was not super happy with how the draft turned out. I was a big fan of trading down and picking someone like a Denny Advia or Tyrese Halliburton, even Obi Toppin, right? Those were the guys that if I could have chosen, I would have picked. But we went with Wiseman, so I was like, well, we'll see how it goes. And then after the first 2 seasons, the first 2 games, I completely ate my words, and I was taken aback about how talented this guy is. I mean, his main knock coming into the NBA was his lack of a jump shot, and clearly that is not something that we need to worry about. His jump shot has looked clean. There was a while there where it looked a little bit iffy right after his injury, but for the most part, it's Wiseman has been nothing but good. Hopefully, in the second half of the season, we'll start to see him play more minutes, get more run time, and I could definitely see him improving even more with an expanded role.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would definitely love to see him, get more minutes in the second half. I think he's averaging 20.8 minutes per game right now, and that's, in my opinion, not what I was expecting. I was expecting more about 25, 26 from our number 2 pick.
Hmm.
So I really hope he plays more. But I also understand why. His rebounding needs a lot of work. Um, his ball
Yeah.
handling, when he has a ball in his hands, I get a little scared because it's a turnover a lot of the time.
Hmm.
Um, he's also got foul trouble. He's averaging 3
Yes.
fouls in 20 minutes. That's a lot. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of stuff he's got to work on. But I think what he's shown is that these are small things that can improve with the right training. And I think the raw skill that we've seen from him, mainly his jump shot. I think the fact that he came in and shot, 2 threes in the opener, um, said a lot. I think the fact that he's shooting 37% on threes. It's a small sample size, but still, that's pretty impressive from the rookie
Right.
that was, like you said to be a non-shooter. 53% from the field, which is acceptable, or 51%, excuse me, which is good. I like that efficiency from him. It's just the rebounding for me and the turnovers in the
Yeah.
fouls.
I mean, he is very much a rookie, right? He's the classic. He has a ton of raw talent and a ton of potential, but he's a rookie. He gets in foul trouble, which is a very common thing among all young centers. He still jumps too much. He gets baited all the time, and his hands aren't the greatest. Um, but yeah, his decision making could use some work. But I think when those things come with age and come with experience. I mean, he basically came from high school. He played 2 games of college and then had to sit out the rest of the season. And so it's very impressive for him to be one of the first or one of the best rookies in this draft, despite not getting any college experience. Right? LaMelo has been on the scene since he was in middle school, pretty much, and then he's had tons of high tier play time. I mean, he played in Australia with professionals, right? So he's had plenty of time to develop, and we're seeing that with him. And Wiseman's development will come with experience.
Yeah, just experience and minutes for sure, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'd like to see Kerr play him a little more. I think
Right.
next year with Clay back, I think that'll be a time when you might even see him play less because of, just lineups and matchups and the finishing minutes of a game. You're gonna have Clay in there. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you take out Wiseman because you want the small ball, which is Kerr. Kerr
Right.
loves to do that. He loves going small ball at the end of the game. So that's why I would like to see him play a little more this year. Get him developed for when Clay is here, and he can be a star in a couple of seasons, no doubt.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of the future next year, um, there have been throughout the whole first half of the season, there's been quite a few trade rumors involving the Warriors, involving uh, Kristaps Porzingis. The most recent one was Oladipo, and it's really important for us to think about what we're going to do with our the Timberwolves pick that we have next year, and the trade deadline is coming up pretty soon here. So, what do you think of our team, and how could it be improved through trades?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we need, and I think with Clay coming back, we need a bench. Um, Notably, Brad Wanamaker, in my opinion, has been a major disappointment. When he's on the floor, we start going down. I think we need a backup point guard, but the bright side is obviously we have guys like Jordan Poole, Jeremy Lin, Nico Mannion in the G League. I hope they come up pretty soon. But in terms of trades, I think we need role players. I like a guy like PJ Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Corner threes, I don't know what happened to him in the bubble, but he has shown signs of what he can still do at his old age. He's getting older, but he's cheap. He plays. He can defend all positions. His corner threes are very good.
Mm-hmm.
A guy like him is the perfect role player I think we need in terms of next year. I don't want us to trade the T-Wolves pick. Top 3 protected this year. If it lands in the top 3, we'll have their unprotected pick in 2022. I hope we use that pick, or at least save it to a later date if we want to trade it then. But in terms of next year, I think we just need role players, for our stars, which is Stephen Clay and Draymond.
Right. I mean, coming into the season, the main thing that I thought the Warriors needed to really make a playoff push was defense. And the Warriors have definitely proved me wrong. I mean, they have one of the best defenses in the league. I think they're sixth, either fifth or sixth in defensive rating, which is honestly quite amazing for the roster that we have. And so I think uh, the trades, none of the trades have really enticed me, right? Especially since almost all of them involve that Timberwolves pick. And that Timberwolves pick is something that I personally cherish because I want, especially this upcoming draft, is loaded. There's been so much talk about how the next draft is generational and that there's talent. Like the first 10 guys in the upcoming draft would have been number one last year. And so I want in on that, right? And the Timberwolves obviously have not been very good. And so that gives me hope that they'll be in that top 5, top 6 area. Um, Now, if they do end up with the top 3 pick and it does convert to being an unprotected the year after, then I would want to trade it because the draft year after, I don't think the Timberwolves will be as bad, and I don't think the draft will be as good. So, yeah, for now, I think we should relax until the trade deadline.
Yeah. Our team needs work. I agree, but we need to chill out. I agree with you completely, especially with this pick. This pick is one of the most valuable things on the block, quote unquote, this year. People have thrown out Bradley Beal, but it's pretty clear the Wizards are going to keep him.
Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr. has been thrown out there, but the Nuggets called him untouchable.
Hmm.
I think when it's all said and done, this pick really is the biggest, prized possession. And I think it would have to be a superstar,
Right.
package deal for me. And if not, let's use it. Let's get, the best guy we can. Probably won't be Cade Cunningham since, he'll go probably won't, number one, but
Hmm.
there's so many other players that we can draft that, you know, I think can contribute next year and obviously will have for the future to pair with a guy like Wiseman. I love Jordan Poole. I think our team, even post Steph Curry, if this goes well, with this draft, can be really good for years to come.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about, being light years ahead. All right. So I think if what we want to do now is go back and make, first of all, talk about the first half of the season. And let's, our team, you know, it is what it is, right? We talked about what we think about the team's success as a whole. But as far as individual players go, I think it would be cool if we could assign some awards to some players, right? Um, because there have been some players who I was not expecting to be any more than just sure play for 10 minutes, score a couple points, and that's it. But the emotional attachment to this year's team, despite it being not that much better than last year's team without Steph, is definitely a lot stronger. And so I thought, first of all, who's been the most surprising person for you on our team?
Well, I'll preface this with saying when we picked up Kent Bazemore, I was really excited because his days in Atlanta, he was a great player. But the fact that he is so lights out from the corner three has just been an amazing factor in, our offense. His
Mm-hmm.
3-point percentage this year is 43.8%. And to compare that
Wow.
to his career, 35.5. I
Yeah.
mean, this guy has been off the charts, especially from that corner three. Overall field goal percentage, 48%. I mean, again, I was really high on him when we picked him up, but he has even then exceeded my expectations as
Yeah.
a fantastic role player, a guy that can go in there and get a bucket, which I think is what we need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that. I mean, yeah, Bazemore has been great. We also have ties to him back for when he used to play for the Warriors. Right, he'd come back, give us some more, and yeah, he's been great. For me, the most surprising player from last year to this year, he's improved a lot. Juan Toscano Anderson, man. I mean, he went from last year being like, who the heck is this guy playing a few minutes here and there, right? He was decent. This year though, he has proved his worth. He reminds me of a mini a poor man's Andre Iguodala, right? Which every team could use. Um, he is great at defense. He can grab a rebound. He'll hit a three. He will make the smart pass. And overall, he fits great. And surprised the heck out of me. I mean, I saw Juan Toscano Anderson on the team, and I was like, couldn't we, like, why him? And especially if he deserves a lot more than his two-way contract would suggest. So overall, Juan Toscano Anderson for me.
Yeah, just to say more about JTA, I mean, I remember at the beginning of the year after the preseason, we released him.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we then signed him to a two-way. And we released him. I was happy. I was like, this guy sucks. He
Right.
started playing right in the beginning of the season, and he's blown me away too. So
Yeah.
he really been an amazing role player. I agree. I do hope he gets a real contract, and I hope he stays. I hope he stays for years to come. He's relatively young. He's got a lot of age left in him, and I think he can be an amazing role player in the future for the Warriors.
Yeah, for sure. What about the best role player for the Warriors, right? Um, let's give some love to the people who might sit at the end of the bench. Someone who may not get very many minutes, but when he gets minutes, you're like, dang, why doesn't this guy play more, right? Who would you say has been the best end of the bench guy for you?
I want to say Jordan Poole, but I'm not going to say Jordan Poole because he only played like 3 games.
Yeah.
Um, but because I can't say Jordan Poole, I have to go with Damian Lee. He's been one of our most consistent players, especially from 3-point range. Putting up some amazing, well, not amazing, but role player numbers that you would want from one of your first guys off the bench. He's obviously not, like you said, he's not the end of the bench,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if I had to pinpoint one guy who says, look, this guy is a role player, he plays with pretty much all the lineups, all the rotations he's in there, he can fit in wherever,
Mm-hmm.
Kerr wants him. And I think that's a really valuable tool. He plays on-ball defense, well enough, suitable defender, and
Mm-hmm.
he grab a rebound, knock down a shot, like you were saying with JTA. I think they're really, they're pretty comparable in their skill sets, and I think Damian Lee for me has been the best role player for us.
Yeah, for me, I would say kind of similar to Damian Lee, Michael Mulder. Again, I could say this for most surprising too, because when we picked him up last year, never heard of him, and I don't know that I really watched him play more than like a game last year. This year, he's played in almost every game, but he doesn't play very much. But when he does play, it feels like he makes every three. He is a knockdown shooter, and that's what he's in there for. Is he's a great shooter, great shot creator, catch and shoot. I mean, he can come in and hit three threes on you in a row, right? Um, yeah, he's been, for me, I would say, the best role player the Warriors have had this year so far.
He's also a rising star.
Yeah, that's true. One of the 2 rising stars, part of the Warriors. All right, well, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much if you have gotten to this point, and we cannot emphasize enough how thankful we are that you are listening. It means a lot. If you did happen to enjoy the episode, I know this might be annoying, but please go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. It will help us out a bunch. If you're listening on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe, like it, do whatever you want. Well, that's going to be it, and we will catch you next time in Dub's Domain.